Amazon, ACLU, Gallup, Deloitte, and many, many, many other organizations to help them understand and visualize their data. A Tableau Visionary Hall of Fame and IronViz winner, Steve also serves on the advisory board to the Data Visualization Society and is co-host of the popular webinar series Chart Chat, which won Data Literacy's Most Interesting Podcast Award. Steve, you're a very accomplished man. I'm not going to read the rest of your bio,
Thank
but
you.
we get the gist, and we're very excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. So I just want to do a quick pre-test here. By the way, has the after-lunch food coma kicked in yet, or do I have like 30 minutes before that's going to happen? So how many of you, when you present, expect to use your own laptop and are making changes like until the last minute? Okay, thank you. My apologies to Alina and her amazing team. These people are working hard. I have contributed to your misery in the last 48 hours, and I'm sorry about that. All right. Have a look at this. It's just a line chart showing 12 months worth of data, and I'm going to make a simple change to it. I'm just going to flip it 90 degrees, and my question for you is, how many people are okay with this? How many of you can still read this? If you can still read this okay, raise your hand. If you can read it. Okay? If you're totally flipping out, raise your hand. Okay? And if you're neutral, raise your hand. Okay, good enough. How many of you have ever seen this before? Anscombe's quartet. Oh my gosh, look at all these hands going up. I would expect that, okay? And how many of you are comfortable reading a connected scatter plot? Okay, all right. I think, maybe about 1/3. All right, that was my little pre-test. I'm going to get to that in a second. Here is the one thing I have in common with Hans Rosling, besides we have consonants and vowels in our names and we're humans. If you watch his amazing 2006 TED Talk, if you have not, make sure you do that. The best stats that you have ever seen. He starts off and he wins us over because he says he was a professor of global health and he was going to be giving this course, and he was stressing out about it because these were the best students in Sweden, and what could he possibly have to teach them? He was nervous, as am I. Not about presenting, but because of the people who are in this room. Some of you are my heroes, and you are working in this kind of exalted space. I don't know if exalted is the right word. Erudite, sophisticated, he said, sucking up to everybody in the room. But you are working on a very high level, a sophisticated level. What can I possibly have to teach you or show you? And that was my hook. That was the, oh, wait a second. The fact that you're so good at this stuff, you are a very sophisticated audience. Can you say the same thing about your audience? And I bet you not, unless you know exactly who they are and what they like. So it makes me think of something that Steve Francaneri has spoken about, and a lot of people have spoken about it as well, which is the curse of expertise. That the stuff that's so clear to you, the way you process it in your head, the way you're thinking about it, you go, well, this is obvious, this is easy. Isn't it easy and obvious to everybody else? Probably not. And that is why I am really bummed out about a new skill I have. Normally, I'm thrilled with, I'm now able to do something I could never do before. I have no problem with this. I can read that. It's easy for me to read this. And the reason I'm freaking out about it or bummed out about it is I've been showing this in workshops for 7 years. Not one person has said, I'm comfortable with that. Everyone, you take the line chart and they go, oh, that's easy. You flip it 90 degrees, they go, I can't read this. Now I can read this. And I fear that's going to permeate other times that I'm presenting data to people. All right, here's another one. I attended the Tableau conference, the most recent one about 6 weeks ago, and was sitting in the back of the room as someone was presenting a session. 200 attendees, intermediate level Tableau, all of them ostensibly spending some time learning about data visualization. The presenter asked, how many of you have ever heard of Anscombe's quartet? One hand went up. One hand. More than half went up in this audience here. I stopped showing this because I said, well, everybody knows this by now. It's in half the data visualization primers that are out there. So why am I bothering to show this? People don't know this stuff. So this was kind of my reaction. One hand went up? That's unbelievable. Also, does your audience even know how to understand a scatter plot? That's usually where, when I'm going pie chart, line chart, bar chart, no problem. Show them a scatter plot, screeching brakes. And will they tell you if they don't? So Pew Research did this a number of years ago. Maybe you saw it. Only 63% of Americans know how to interpret this chart. Carl Bergstrom of Calling Bullshit fame, a very good, fun book, or eye-opening book, said, you know, it's probably more like 50% because a lot of people who got it right just guessed. It was a multiple choice question, et cetera. So you got a lot of people who don't know how to read a scatter plot, let alone that bespoke, amazing visualization that you're fashioning. And finally, this one, I was happy to see that Nick DeBarra wrote about this in Nightingale magazine. And he kind of has the same reaction that I do. And he's not just a professional chart looker-atter, he's a professional chart maker. And connected scatter plots make me feel dumb. And they make me feel dumb as well. I'm not saying don't use them, don't make them. I'm just saying that there may be an audience that doesn't know how to interpret this. Also, no one wants to appear stupid. And so rather than ask for help interpreting your dashboard or your visualization, they may do the thing that makes every dashboard designer want to cry. Could you please put that on the dashboard so I can just download it as a spreadsheet? All right, I want to discuss putting time on its side for a minute. And this was a data visualization that appeared in the Washington Post a number of years ago, and it became fodder for our discussion of on Chart Chat. And it was when Elon Musk bought Twitter, what happened? So, you know, here's this kind of broomstick chart. And the first conceit is time is going from up down. Earlier dates are on top. And this is when Elon Musk purchased Twitter. And then you have a whole bunch of people who lost, people who skew politically to the left. The blue people lost followers, and the red people gained followers. And we had a number of issues with this. Jeff Schaefer wasn't so much upset or alarmed or concerned. Alarmed is the wrong word. With the chart type, it was, did the authors cherry pick certain politicians to show, oh, the blue ones lost, the red ones gained. And also, they were looking at actual values, not percentage values. You have some people with 20 million followers, and losing or gaining 100,000 is not that big a deal. Interestingly, if you looked at this chart on a phone, it looked like this. Okay, we're going along, people are gaining and losing followers, boom, here's what happens, and the red people increased, the right-leaning politicians gained, and the blue ones lost. I found this much easier to interpret, and I don't know why not do it this way, except that kind of interesting conceit of, oh, I'm showing the ones that go to the left and the ones that go to the right. Well, we kind of understand red and blue in this country now. I'm sorry they've been co-opted because they're such good colors. Okay, the other thing that I have a bugaboo about is the use of Voronoi tree maps, not Voronoi diagrams, which serve a wonderful purpose of showing mapping and distance. Like, where's the nearest hospital, and if I live here versus in that area, and these weird shapes that present, here is the shortest distance to get to some focal point. But instead you see something like this. By the way, this is from howmuch.net. I did try to vet the data and make sure that I'm not amplifying. The site was down at the time. And I can clearly see that the global economy is dominated by the United States of America and is about 1/4, because there's a number that says 24.32%. If it didn't have that number in there, would I be able to say that's roughly 1/4? I doubt it. By the way, that's a very good test of the potency of your data visualizations. If you take the numbers out, can people still read it? So I have a problem with taking something like the Ben Schneiderman tree map and saying, which is already requires some effort to either see how much bigger is this thing than that thing, and what is the relationship of the part to the whole, and I think you're making it much, much harder. It looks interesting, but you're making it harder for people to see what's going on. So if you want to make something like this, you can. This is from Stack Overflow. You can get the code for it. Or if you're a Tableauian, La Data Viz makes a marvelous data extension. So you can take something that's simple and easy to understand and make something that an ellipse that's broken up into various categories. But remember, if you're doing it with this type of data, people are probably trying to make a business decision. And you already may have stakeholders who are skeptical about the value of data visualization. They haven't bought into it. And I fear you may be hurting your cause with this. Now, in my head, I'm presenting this to you very calmly. In my head, I'm seething like Lewis Black. Why are you doing stuff like this? He's the voice of anger in Inside Out, by the way. And I sometimes think that we are embracing the visual equivalent of molecular gastronomy, when what would best serve our stakeholders might be just peanut butter and jelly. So if we look at John Byrne Murdoch's quote from a while back, I just love this. For me, the priorities of making data viz accessible is 1, a good narrative chart title, and 2, use the chart type that most of your audience will understand, and then like nothing else. That's 95% of the way there. Okay, so I've kind of railed against time on its side. I've railed against Voronoi tree maps. Why do I love this? This is by, oh, hold on, I got to look back. We need to give her credit. Tanya Lomskava. And Voronoi tree map to see the how influence changes in each century. I'm going to let you kind of take this in for a minute. Starts with before the Common Era, 1st century, 2nd century, so it's kind of this serpentine diagram, and it looks like a stained glass window with light coming behind it, etc. And why am I saying, well, wait a second, I thought you said that Voronoi tree maps, you didn't like them, and now they're okay? By the way, Andy and Amanda know I'm getting a lot of mileage out of that dog. I paid $12 on iStock Photo for this. I'm going to use it wherever I can. So there is the dog looking confused. Why is this now okay? And it mostly has to do with the audience that designer was creating for. She was creating for other data visualization enthusiasts who would love to see that type of stuff, who would love to see the brilliance that she put into this stuff and the creativity and how she cajoled Tableau into doing her bidding. It was fantastic. Same reaction that I had with this to Dennis Koo. Yeah, did you see this? I think this is fantastic. And more German men pee standing up than any of the other countries surveyed, and only 23% of American men, sit down when peeing. 62% of German men sit down when peeing, according to the survey. I did go down the rabbit hole. They surveyed 7,200 people. They have a good margin of error on this thing. The other thing, though, is if you really go down the rabbit hole, you'll discover that there's actually, Germans have a derogatory term for men who pee sitting down. Even though most of them pee sitting down, it's called a Sitzpinkler. So, and it's, oh, wow, you have to pee sitting down. But most of them do pee sitting down. So I found this fascinating. Interestingly, hold on. So I love this. And I'm going to try to show that you may be saying, wait a minute. Are you inconsistent? Are you hypocritical? Are you adult? Are you all three? No, there's a reason why I think this is just fine. Incidentally, this is the diagram that he has now. The one that Dennis Koo published initially was the difference were much more exaggerated, and I contacted him and go, I'm not kind of buying the size of the circles. They're not accurate. I actually like it better this way. because it kind of drives the point home. But if he wants to have credibility or whatever, he changed it, and he made the size of the circles accurate. By the way, did anyone know that this was anywhere near true, or that anyone would even think of asking this question? Thank you, YouGov. So I have no problem with that. But these things where you're trying to actually make some business decisions based on the data, and you need to know what's bigger, what's smaller, what percentage is this, why are you doing this type of thing? And I think it kind of comes down to, does your audience need to make accurate comparisons, or do they just need to get a feel for this? And Andy has written about this and is writing about it brilliantly. So whenever that comes out, I think you're going to enjoy it a great deal. But that's an important point to me. But the other thing is, so you're trying, I would argue in many cases where you don't need to get feel, where you don't need to, or just sharing something which is whimsical, or where you don't need to, you just need to get the flow of something. I'm not asking you to dumb things down. Thank you. The judge from Hungary has just given me a 5.0. Thank you. It means 5 minutes left. And this notion of simple versus simplistic, I'm not saying dumb it down, but there may be times where that chart you know everybody understands, they're not going to understand it. You're going to have to bring them up a little bit. This was the case of the churn dashboard in the big book of dashboards. It was, I'm not going to show this to a stakeholder and they're going to instantly understand it. I'm going to have to take some time to explain what's going on with this, and maybe I'll walk them through it with a presentation and explain what's going on, or I'll make a 30-second explainer video and point out, here is why this chart is going to help you understand what's going on and making better decisions. Same with understanding what a jitter plot is. I want to show that a lot of the dots are concentrating in an area, so you'll walk them through how to read it, and there's no difference with the dot on the left and the dot to the right. Maybe a crowning achievement in lifting up tons of people, probably millions, was explaining how to understand what's happening with the pandemic. And this is John Byrne Murdoch's creating an index chart combined with a log chart, with a logarithmic scale. I never thought logarithmic scales would go mainstream. We needed a pandemic to make that happen. And so many other news organizations followed suit with this. And I assure you, tons of people don't know how to read this, but tons of people now do. And it helped them understand this truly frightening time in our lives, which unfortunately we've moved to a totally different, truly frightening times in our lives, but we'll leave that for a second discussion. All right, here is a place where I have failed and where the curse of expertise has dogged me. Any of you who know me well know my subspecialty is within visualizing survey data. And for 14 years, I've tried to come up with the optimal way to visualize Likert scale data. And I didn't come up with it, but this programmer out of Romania who's just does data visualization as a hobby has asserted, here is a great way to do this. Now look at how the scale is going. Somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. The concentrated values are in the middle and they kind of work their way in opposite direction. And I'm going, oh my God, this is it. This is exactly what you should be doing. It's fantastic. It's the best way to understand Likert scale data. And there's Steve Frankenary, and he's laughing at me right now because I get it. I've been working on this for 14 years. I couldn't even get my chart chat chums to buy into this thing. So I'll show it to my stakeholders. They'll look at me like I'm crazy. They're not going to use this thing, and we'll come up with something that they're more comfortable with. Final couple of things. Before writing the big book of dashboards with Andy and Jeff Schaefer, a colleague of ours, Kelly Martin, suggested that I read this book. Thank you. Yes. A dear friend, Bridget, to Kelly Martin, and the other way around. In any case, that was not my takeaway in this. That was supposed to be the takeaway. When I read this book, it was, what does my audience need? How am I going to help my audience? That was the takeaway for me. And this is why you wait a little while to make the presentation, because just 2 days ago, Gabriel Marit posted this, and it's about why people aren't using the amazing stuff you're making. Realize your chart may be red hot, but your audience may not know diddly squat, and this kind of articulates it. this looks amazing, but how is it going to help me with my report tomorrow? Show them better charts mean fewer panicked emails, et cetera. And figure out what it is that is going to help the people that you are supposed to help. So as you try to balance creativity versus clarity on this stuff, just realize your audience may not be as far along as you need them to be. So I would say, will the audience you want to reach embrace your work, or will they be intimidated by what you're doing? By all means, get the ooh-ah in there. You want to make something that people go, wow, that's amazing. But please, not at the expense of the aha, which is what the people really need. Many of you here can do both. I wish I had your skills. Thank you.
Raquel, do you want to ask any in-person questions? I didn't see any come in on the virtual side yet.
Hello. There you go. I feel like even if you know that you're an expert and you know more than most people, it's still really hard to check yourself. So how do you go about that? Because sometimes I feel like, oh, well, it should be obvious.
One is spend time with people who are not as well versed in this stuff. Look, so much about what our next book is going to be about is fostering adoption and making sure to spend time with the people who are going to be using the work that you're creating, and ask them, hey, I've got several different ways of presenting this. Do you understand these things? Which helps you the most? By the way, as data visualization experts, you don't want to come in with sharp elbows and go, I'm the data visualization expert. You should be doing what I say. Ask instead, what are the questions we're trying to answer? And which of these helps you answer those things the most easily and with the least amount of effort on your part? And you're the person who hit me to the guava. Have those tomorrow. The guava-filled pastries were really good, so thank you.
How do you go about when the audience you believe you're working towards is different from the audience that your stakeholder thinks?
So
like, if the stakeholder thinks that they are the audience, but they are not the final users to see it, how do you bridge that gap where they are thinking you're designing for them when you should actually be designing for a broader audience?
It's hard to design for a broad audience, an ill-defined audience. This is why an infographic often has to be, I got to grab somebody's attention. I have to have a shiny object so they don't turn from page 13 to page 14. That's hard. If you've got multiple audiences with multiple needs and multiple expertise, that's orders of magnitude more difficult when you have clearly defined the subset of people that will be using this thing. So sorry I don't have an easy answer for you because it's not easy.
One more? One more. Perfect.
I hope I can ask this clear enough. I think I hear you saying they will never become what we want them to be in the sense of data literate.
No.
Or so there's a subtle being a theologian versus being a pastor, right? And I hear there's a practice and people have to get through their day-to-day life versus I want to think about the depth of visualization. And I'm trying to figure out how far you can get this literacy over, I guess.
I didn't like what you said at the beginning because it suggested, well, we're just, they'll never be at our level of expertise. They may never have the delight and love and enthusiasm that we have for this type of stuff, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to interpret it, value it, appreciate it, and give you great feedback on how to make it much better. I can't tell you how many times my stakeholders have said, oh, I'm a little confused by this. I said, you're right. I can see why that's confusing. Suppose we did this. So they're going to help you make stuff that's better and have a broader reach. So look, the people here, if you're here, you're into this stuff and a level way beyond my friends and family and stuff like that, who are probably not going to gravitate towards this to that extent. But you can certainly bring your stakeholders up to a higher level. Just realize, do it with their best interest in mind as opposed to getting them to marvel at how brilliant you are.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.